Hey everybody, it's your friend Adam. I'm here with another Think Club debate. Today we are going to be debating, is secular morality better than Christian morality? And I am taking the negative position. I am on Team Christian side today. I have my Atheist for Jesus t-shirt. We are going to be debating, is secular morality... Wait, we have a little bit of an audio issue. Was that you, Sarah?
Yeah, I fixed
it. Okay. So, we're going to be debating, is secular morality better than Christian morality? Sarah, Michelle is going to be taking the affirmative position. She's going to be going first. I just want to say next week, Wednesday, July 24th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be debating Kent Hovind. And we actually settled on a debate topic, and unfortunately I don't have it up here. I think it's if slavery is immoral, can evolution explain why? I think that's the wording of the debate topic we settled on. So it's involves slavery, evolution, and morality, which should be a lot of fun. So he told me to be sure to define evolution for everyone. So I think I'm actually going to be defining evolution in the same way he defines evolution, because I think he accepts evolution, but just micro evolution, not macro evolution. He doesn't accept speciation, but I don't think I need that for my argument. So it should be an interesting debate. I'm looking forward to it. And I have C.M. Bradley here to moderate. He's taken off his he's covered up his wife beater and put on a professional t-shirt or a professional button-down shirt for us. Why don't you say hi, Bradley?
Hello, everybody.
So he's going to be moderating, and I've asked him to step in as a member of the audience if anything seems unclear. That's kind of the way that I try to moderate. I just want to make sure that everything we're talking about is clear for the audience. So if he steps in more than you like, know that he's doing it with my permission. Obviously, he's not going to take sides or anything like that. So with that out of the way, I will let you open, Sarah, with your opening argument. You have 10 minutes, but if you take as long as you need.
All right. Thank you. So before I begin talking about Christian versus secular morality, it's important to define morality and what do we mean when we talk about morality. And I think this is a point where you and I are going to agree on. I saw your video about morality yesterday, by the way. And I think we both agree here. Morality can be defined as a set of oughts and ought nots, so we can call it rules that are going to either reward or punish certain behaviors and actions and attitudes that are either deemed as virtuous or wicked, as right or wrong. Now, it can also include some things like values and archetypes that are seen as preferable to those that are seen as non-preferable, as a way to classify between what is good and what is bad. But it's important when we talk about morality as how it is enforced. How society enforces those things that are desirable and those that are not desirable. And this is where I get into more the codification of morality. That is the case of law. Law is the translation of those moral values into a code that can either punish, not so much to reward the virtues, because the virtues are supposed to triumph and thrive with their own virtues, because the values are good on themselves. But the wickedness, the wicked are supposed to be punished for their viciousness. So that is why you're going to have a system of morality. Now, so the point that I'm making here is, when we are debating these things, the best way to go on about it is to compare the both laws. Is compare, in this case, a secular laws with Christian laws, with theocratic laws. So in this case, when we're talking about where do the laws come from, well, the source of law of Christianity is the Bible. The source of law, the primary source of law of Christianity is God, but it is translated in the Bible. That is where there is a codification of God's law. And, well, the Bible sanctions things such as slavery. There is a number of verses. I have my King James Bible here with me if you want to go if we have to go through the verses. But there are many verses in the Bible that justify and sanction slavery and considers outrageous things such as beating slaves as something acceptable, consider kidnapping virgins as something acceptable. So, of course, all of these things are sanctioned in the Bible, things that today we understand to be absolutely immoral, absolutely heinous and unacceptable. Also, rape is sanctioned in the Bible. It's sanctioned. A person who rapes, a man who rapes a virgin woman can get away with it as long as he pays a fine and marries her. Still another crime that today is considered absolutely unacceptable. And how did we get to the point where those things were sanctioned in the Bible and now we consider them unacceptable? Well, when we talk about rape, there was a progression about accepting rape and not accepting it. And of course, in a case of law and how secularism progressed into the point that now we have that rape is absolutely unacceptable. That was King James military code was an example of that back away in the 15th century. In the 19th century, that started to be codified in the case of several laws in the common law, understand as something unacceptable. And in the case of slavery, Montesquieu's Spirits of the Laws was a work that condemned slavery. And one interesting thing about Montesquieu is that he called slavery repugnant to all reason. And it's interesting that he didn't mention God. He mentioned reason as the cause, that's why slave is so unacceptable, so iniquitous. So looking at this, we're looking at the law only, and the law, of course, is not itself. If the law itself might not seem so barbaric and nefarious to you, there's something even worse. Like when we look at the core element of Christianity, why should we even believe in it? What do we owe to God and to Jesus? It comes to the original sin, and that is probably the most objectionable of all doctrines of Christianity, the idea that we inherit the sins of our foreparents, that the sins committed by Adam and Eve when they decided to challenge God was it's inherited to humanity throughout time. We are always in that to God because of the sins of our foreparents. And this is something absolutely immoral. And not only that, God created the tree of knowledge, created us, and then punishes us for eating of that fruit, and send himself or his son, no matter how you, doesn't matter how you look at it, to suffer for our sins, and then puts us into his debt. So he created all of this. He practically, we can say that he set us up so he can put us in his eternal debt, which is, of course, a case for us to worship that would be a case of Stockholm Syndrome. And a reason why Nietzsche calls Christian morality slave morality. That's how Nietzsche got to this definition of slave morality, as Christian being the culmination or the extreme of what would be a slave morality. The best example of it, we are bound by a contract to this cosmic dictator that puts us in eternal debt not for our sins, but for the sins of our foreparents. Is something that we today, through knowledge, through experience, through our wisdom, we know to be absolutely immoral and unacceptable. And I think that has been 10 minutes, I suppose. I wasn't really timing it, but
Brad?
Yeah.
Bradley?
You still have a few minutes if you want to keep going.
Well, I suppose I could go on a little bit. Well, when you talk about a fruit of knowledge, it's there is another thing about Christianity. The idea that the story of the fruit of knowledge is it's a crime to pursue knowledge. We should we must have obedience to God. We must accept God words on. We must simply accept His word. Don't question and don't even pursue any sort of knowledge, as that itself is considered a crime worth of eternal punishment, or as we are now in eternal debt to Him. And of course, this is something that is absolutely heinous, unfair, and what we understand now to be the case, because we decided to pursue that fruit of knowledge, because we now know more about the world, because our collective experience gave us knowledge through time. So this is why I defend the position that secular morality is better, because we can improve it. We can improve it with our knowledge. We can improve it with our experience, with our wisdom, while Christian morality, we cannot. We assume that it is perfect. We assume that God is perfect and that Jesus is perfect, and we cannot question that. Questioning that is itself a sin worth of punishment. So, yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay. On my debates, I usually do a steelman section where I just try to steelman your argument, just so we know that we're clear. So I'm going to do that now. You made a lot of points. I'm going to try and summarize your argument. So you and I are in agreement where morality is a set of rules, a set of rules that dictate behavior. We're in agreement there. You did note that there's a separation between the actual rules and the enforcement of the rules. So there is the actual list of behavioral rules, and obviously humans can do those rules or not do those, or follow those rules or not follow those rules. So there is an enforcement aspect of this. And in secular law, obviously we have like police forces, we have all kinds of ways of enforcing law. So you're saying secular law is better than biblical law. So you're making the argument that Christian morality is biblical morality. It's the morality that's laid out in the Bible.
Not exactly.
Okay.
Christian law, or the law that comes from the Bible, is the codification of Christian morality. That's what it is. It's a codification of it. It's not necessarily the same thing, but it's how it is codified. Because a system of morality is only as good as it can be enforced. If it's not enforced, then it has no purpose.
So you're saying that a system of morality is only as good as the enforcement mechanisms involved in the system of morality?
Pardon?
You're saying that a system of morality is dependent upon enforcement, that it's only as good as the enforcement mechanisms involved.
Yeah, if it cannot be enforced in any way, then it serves no purpose. It needs to be enforced.
Okay, so I need to press on this point, because it seems to me that the flaw in your argument is that that you're conflating Christian morality and your interpretation of biblical of the Bible, because you're saying that biblical morality, you pointed out things like rape, murder, slavery, original sin, all things that you disagree with, that you think are a part of Christian morality. Do you think Christians think that rape is moral?
What is the source of morality for Christianity? What is the source?
Well, there's two components here. There's a textual component where I think we'll agree, and then there's the interpretation of the text. Like we have, even in secular law, they have laws on the books, but we have courts that interpret those laws. We have
No, fair enough, absolutely. But these things that I mentioned, they are not open to interpretation. They are very clear.
How are they not open? Like we have a Supreme Court.
In terms of slavery, there is no interpretation. They are very clear in the Bible that slavery is sanctioned in the Bible. There is not.
Do Christians today accept slavery as part of their moral system?
If they don't, they are not following God's law.
So that's your interpretation of God's law.
No, it's not.
Well, what about the abolitionists? The abolitionists use different. The American abolitionists used the Bible. Their interpretation of the Bible was slavery was wrong.
And they ignore the verses that sanction slavery.
Your camera failed. Sorry.
Yeah, I hate doing shit here.
But you acknowledge that your interpretation is in conflict with the abolitionists' interpretation.
It's not a matter of it's not a matter of interpretation. It's in the text. If they ignore certain if they ignore certain passages of the Bible,
right?
Then if they are ignoring certain passages of the Bible, it's not a matter of interpretation. It's a matter of cherry picking. It's not the same thing as interpretation.
If a secular law is enacted in the United States, whose interpretation of that law matters more, mine or the Supreme Court justices?
Well, there is the difference, though, because what the Supreme Court does in America is to check if a law or if a procedure in court is in accordance to the Constitution. It's to check the constitutionality of a law or of a decision of a court.
And when they do that, what are they doing?
And the Constitution is not up for debate. The Constitution is very clear what it is and what are the rules in the Constitution.
If the Constitution is clear, then why do we need a Supreme Court to interpret it?
We don't. Well, the Supreme Court is not questioning the interpretation of the Constitution.
What?
It's questioning the interpretation. No, it's questioning the interpretation of a court's decision or of a law, not the Constitution.
The current interpretation of the Second Amendment of the Constitution says that anybody can have firearms. There is a difference of opinion on that interpretation. The left has one interpretation and the right has a completely different interpretation.
It's interpreting. No, what is interpreting is the decisions of the court are in accordance to what the Second Amendment says, or laws that came after the Second Amendment. That is how constitutional law works. The Constitution is not being questioned. The Constitution is very clear.
So I just want to make sure before we move on that you understand my counter argument. So I am saying, and do I understand your argument correctly, that you're saying Christian morality is based on the Bible and that the Bible is only interpreted we are only able to interpret the Bible in one way, and that is the way that you've selected to interpret.
Not what I said.
Okay.
No, that's not what I said. What I said is that the source of Christian morality is God.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible codifies God's law, God's moral values into laws.
You yourself are an atheist, though, right? Like.
Yes, I am an atheist.
I'm an atheist, so there is no God. So how can the source be God? The source has to be the text.
If you're a Christian, you believe. If you're a Christian, you believe the source is God.
Well, but neither one of us are Christians, so let's talk about the actual source.
Well, what is the actual source in that case? Would be the same case. According to what I believe, is the same case as a secular morality. The source is knowledge and experience. But of course, there is where the difference is. Christian morality determines that God and Jesus are perfect. They are morally perfect. And whatever is in the Bible is not up for questioning because it is perfect.
So it is the Bible. I'm just like, we're both saying that the set of rules that constitutes Christian morality comes from the Bible, correct? We agree there.
The set of rules of Christianity comes from the Bible, yes.
Okay, so we're in agreement there.
Yes.
So the difference of agreement that I think we have is that you're saying there's only one way to interpret the Bible, and I'm saying that there's many. Okay, so you agree with me. You agree with me. There's many different interpretations to the Bible, correct?
No, there are certain passages that aren't up for interpretation. There are certain passages that they're very clear.
Okay, but aren't there just as many other passages that will contradict the passage that's very clear? The problem with the Bible is
in terms of slavery, it's not up for questioning. In terms of slavery, because the New Testament condones it again. The New Testament confirms that slaves must obey their masters. It's on the is on the second on the New Testament. It is
Okay.
confirmed.
So,
It doesn't question at all. It confirms slavery.
so you're saying on the topic of slavery, and I don't know, I'm not a biblical scholar or anything, but you're saying on the topic of slavery that the Bible is completely clear, that there's no counter to the
Yeah.
idea that slavery is wrong. The
There is no-
the abolitionists
there is-
though the abolitionists actually pulled from the Bible to say that slavery was wrong though. I mean, I don't know. Everyone's cherry picking. That's my point. You're cherry picking.
But
Couldn't
if
the
it's
opposite
cherry
side just say as well that you're cherry
then
picking?
Hold on.
Christian morality is pointless. Then we are talking about then all morality is secular. If we are cherry picking, then all morality is secular.
Well, not necessarily. We haven't really got to
There is
this.
there is no divine origin of morality. It's all secular.
We haven't defined secular morality yet. We're working around to that. Bradley, did you want to say something?
No, I was just thinking. So couldn't someone just as well say that that you're the one doing the cherry picking and saying that there's only one clear interpretation of biblical ethic concerning slavery?
There are certain things that are up for interpretation. I don't question that. There are certain things in the Bible that can be interpreted and can be questioned. But slavery is not ambiguous.
Well, real quick, when you said that the New Testament's very clear in condoning slavery,
Yes.
would you go as far as to say it even approves of slavery as an institution?
Yes.
Okay, well, that seems like a very fringe view of which I've never heard before. Because there's.
I can read the passages if you want.
Well, I know the ones that you referenced previous. I'm not trying to be debating. Just try to get some clarification here. So, like, because the ones that you mentioned was as far as slaves obeying their masters, isn't. I mean, at the same time, you have them saying to obey also the laws of Rome. So isn't the way that Christians normally interpret that is more of a sort of not getting engaged with the political institutions and political leaders and stuff at the time, but instead just being. That's why Nietzsche said it was a slave morality, is because they just.
No, Ephesians chapter 6, says, "Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in singleness of your heart as unto Christ." It's unambiguous. The Bible sanctions slavery and confirms it on the New Testament. You have to obey your masters, tremble upon them as you would upon God. It is unambiguous.
Certainly, but you seem to be going past that and saying that therefore. Or actually, therefore, it's actually saying that slavery is a good thing or is even a morally permissible thing. That seems to be a little bit more of
just
abstraction from the mere text.
That's what the Bible says.
That's your interpretation.
Bradley, I don't want to get two on one thing going.
Yeah, sorry.
It's unambiguous.
All right, my bad.
Just just to be clear. I'm arguing that there is nothing that is unambiguous. You're saying that it is unambiguous to you, but we could, if we collected 100 Christians off of the streets, what are the likelihood? How many of those Christians would say that slavery is immoral?
They are betraying the code of their own God. They are not following their God because their God says in the Bible, in the Holy Book, that slavery is acceptable.
Okay, so but what we could, another way that we could interpret that is that 100 people have a different interpretation of Christianity than you do, because their interpretation of Christianity is that slavery is immoral. So, but I just want to get back to this because I really honestly think that you're conflating the biblical text with the interpretation of the text. And really, if you want to talk about what Christian morality is, you have to talk about the interpretation. It's the same thing with the secular morality. If you want to talk about the Constitution, you have to talk about the interpretation of the Constitution, because many different people have many different interpretations of these documents. You also said in your opening statement, what's that?
Numbers 31. Behold,
I don't want to get.
Israel. Well, you keep saying
still,
that it's ambiguous. So the best way to know if it is ambiguous or not, we go to the text, we check the text, and we see whether it's ambiguous or not.
Even if it is not ambiguous, there are people in the world that will ignore that. That's like you.
Then they are admitting that the Bible, which is the word of God, the code of God, is not perfect. So if God is not perfect, why should we care about God?
I don't. Our debate is about Christian morality. So
if I could input just real quick, I think it might be helpful perhaps to transition from what you mentioned at the beginning, Sarah, which is that I think you said if there's no enforcement, then who cares what the source of the morality says whatsoever. What seemed to be your interest was the enforcement of the morality. So perhaps it might be good to go in that direction. Do you think, Adam?
But we that's what we're talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Well, you were just talking about the source material as opposed to the enforcement, because obviously no Christians today.
This is the crux of the debate.
Well, no. There is. If you want to go through and cherry pick, if you want to go through and select quotes from the Bible that condone rape, murder, slavery, and then say that Christian morality is based on rape, murder, and slavery, but we take 100 random Christians off the street and we ask every single one of those Christians, is rape immoral? Is slavery immoral? Is murder immoral? And every single one of them argue that it is. Then you are not analyzing Christian morality. You are analyzing your interpretation of Christian morality.
My interpretation is what the text says.
Why is your interpretation more important than these 100 Christians?
Not an interpretation, as I've said numerous times. It is.
Why is your interpretation more? Are you the supreme arbiter of Christianity now? Are you the Supreme Court of the Bible?
No, it is a matter of the things being unambiguous in the Bible. The Bible is unambiguous about slavery. It's not a matter of interpretation.
Let's define morality for a second here. We defined it.
We've been through this.
As a set of rules, correct?
Yes.
So
laid out in the Bible.
If we pull 100 random Christians off the street and their set of rules is different from your interpretation of the Bible's set of rules,
they didn't get from Christianity.
Then they don't operate under Christian morality then?
They didn't get this notion that slavery is objectionable and absolutely unacceptable. They didn't get from Christianity. They got it from somewhere else. They got it from secular morality. They got it from humanism. So that's where they got it from.
So then we could move on to the enforcement part of it. Like if the Christian morality is operating just to enforce what you're effectively saying isn't even Christian morality, you're saying it's secular morality. If the biblical understanding of these rules helps the enforcement mechanism, what mechanism is there to help the enforcement on the secular side?
On the secular courts of law, and secular laws that are not inspired by the Bible.
So if a person is not going to get caught, then there's nothing wrong with him lying, cheating, stealing, murdering, raping.
It doesn't mean that it's nothing wrong with them. It's not about being wrong or not, but it is the fact that it's codified in law means that we know that it's wrong. And if you get caught, it's the same thing with Christianity. Yeah, it says that all these things are wrong, but you can only be punished for those things if you get caught.
So have I done a decent job of steel manning your argument? Are you convinced that I understand your argument?
I think the case of cherry picking that you said about me cherry picking and my interpretation of the Bible, I don't accept.
Well, that's my argument. Can you steel man my argument? It sounds like maybe you already just did.
Well, I don't know. Let's keep going. Let's see.
Well, what is my argument? I'm asking you to steel man my argument.
Your argument.
Yes, my argument against you. You're making an argument that
your argument is that Christian morality and biblical morality are not the same thing. That's what it seems to be the case.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
So let's move on to secular morality then. Where does what is the origin of secular morality? Like what is let me just ask, like what is secular morality's opinion on forgiveness?
On forgiveness. Secular morality opinion on forgiveness, yes, is something seen as a virtue. Except if not indulgent. Indulgence of forgiveness is of course a vice. Is of course something to be unaccepted.
So, but what is the origin of this opinion?
This is something we learn from experience. Is something we learn over time. What we deem to be acceptable and what we deem to be beneficial, and things that we deem to be malefic to society. Some things that we learn with experience, how they work and when they don't.
So what if my experience is quite the opposite? What if my experience is that I like to get even with people? I like to chase them to the ends of the earth and torture them. What if that's my experience for what's the right way to treat someone who's wronged me?
Yeah. Then if you wrong somebody, you get punished if you get caught. Because that's wrong.
I'm asking though, you've made an argument that we can clearly point to the Bible and say this is the origin of Christian morality.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that secular morality has to do with human experience. Doesn't everybody have a different human experience?
No.
Everyone has the same human experience.
Society, when I'm talking about wisdom and when I'm talking about knowledge, I'm talking about collective wisdom and collective knowledge. Things
now,
that we learn over time.
And what is the origin of that?
What is the origin is our reason, is our experience, is our experience on earth.
If two people disagree on secular morality, your secular morality, how do we arbitrate disputes about our disagreement?
We discuss and let reason prevail.
So you're saying secular morality is completely based on just reason?
Reason and experience, yes.
Reason and experience. And there's no differentiation between person to person or group to group. I mean, by this account, of
course, there can be differentiation, but these things can be debated. They can be discussed. In terms of Christian morality, if you're going to take Christian morality as what it's supposed to be, it's to talk, which is a morality that comes from God. God is not supposed to question. You cannot debate God. You have to obey God, not debate him.
The set of secular moral rules, though, won't they differ from nation to nation?
Pardon?
Yeah. I'm just trying to get a bead on exactly what you mean by secular morality. What is secular morality? We've agreed that morality is a set of rules, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've asked you your opinion.
It's a morality that doesn't assume a dogmatic belief in God. It doesn't assume a dogmatic source of morality. It doesn't assume that morality cannot be questioned. That not everything in a secular morality, everything is up for questioning. We agree upon what is our goal, which is nowadays defined as well-being.
Is murder up for question? You said everything's up for question.
Yes, murder is up for question. Yes.
So in a
war, you don't have to kill someone, because if you don't murder them, they're going to murder you. So murder in a war is acceptable.
Murder is the unlawful killing. If you're killing in self-defense, that's generally considered lawful.
War is not exactly self-defense, because you have to kill the other person before they kill you.
Self-defense is not murder. Self-defense is not murder.
Fair enough.
Self-defense is not murder.
We can debate semantics all day, but the point is, killing another person can be acceptable. And if we think murder is not acceptable, that is the point. We can discuss this. In a secular morality, we can discuss it.
So
and if someone thinks murder is acceptable, that person can make their arguments. In a religious morality, that is considered heresy, and it's unacceptable.
So Christian morality has changed vastly over the years, over the decades, over the centuries.
Christian.
What's that?
It became less Christian and more secular.
Well, they still call themselves Christian.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Well,
And
we still
we
haven't
are called
we still haven't
democratic.
really I mean we still really haven't defined what secular morality is. Like if secular morality is a list of rules, what
No, the difference is the source of morality. That is the difference between a Christian morality and secular morality. Christian morality, the source of morality is the Bible, is the Word of God.
right. And I'm arguing that Christian morality is the interpretation of the Bible. And you're saying the source of secular morality is reason.
Reason and experience.
Reason and experience. But different people will have different experience.
Not well. That's why I say about collective. I think I have explained this before. So I talk about collective experience and collective knowledge.
But different collectives will have different collective experiences, right?
That's why we have different morality.
The morality in Nazi Germany was completely different.
That's why we have different moralities. Now there are certain elements, certain motifs. You might say they are recurring, but the rules they might vary between cultures. You made a video about this. I watched it last night. With Jonathan Haidt's idea of different morality vary between cultures. It's pretty good idea.
Moral foundations theory, the evolutionary origin of morality.
Yeah, it's exactly that. They might vary between cultures because cultures will have different experiences and go through learn different things, different sciences, etc.
So, what is the difference between a culture that has had a different experience and has a different interpretation of the Bible and creates a different Christian morality from the biblical text than
as I said,
a different?
Some things are ambiguous in the Bible and they are up for interpretation, but some things are not. Slavery is one of those cases where it's not. It's unambiguous. The Bible sanctions and condones it. It's right there. You can't question that.
Well, I am questioning that.
Well, then we can go to. That's what I said.
My argument for why I'm questioning.
Sarah, hold on. Let's let Adam speak.
My argument for why it's very questionable, and everybody should question it, is those 100 random Christians that you pull off the street that say slavery is immoral.
Then they are questioning their Bible, because the Bible.
Either way, They are living by a Christian morality that does not accept slavery. And what you're saying is that what is that? And so are you arguing that since their morality is no longer Christian, their morality is now secular because they disagree with the Bible?
Yes.
So what makes something secular morality?
As I've said, is a morality that we learn through experience and knowledge, that we can change, that we can learn over time and change. The Bible can be changed. The Bible can
change. There's a book called The Evolution of God. It's a very good book about how Christianity has changed, like how the interpretation of Christianity is what continues to change. It changes to this day.
This is exactly what I'm saying. Some things about the Bible are ambiguous and can be interpreted. Some things are not. Slavery is one of those cases that is not.
But you're arguing.
That's why atheists talk so much about, or anti-theists talk so much about slavery, because slavery in the Bible is a case where it's unambiguous. It's not up for questioning. It's right there. I can read the text. I have it right here.
I'm debating Kent Hovind. I doubt he is going to say that slavery is moral.
Then he's not following the moral code of the Bible.
Right. So, but you're taking your interpretation of the Bible and you're saying you have to follow this interpretation of the Bible or you're not following Christian morality.
I've been through this several times, not what I'm saying.
So the secular morality that this list of rules that you'll pull out as secular morality, what is secular morality's opinion on abortion, a topic like abortion? How do we solve the abortion dilemma through secular morality?
No, that is a good point. Yeah, it's something that we have to discuss. And when it comes to abortion, is a matter that is very contentious, and that you might have people who are atheists, who are non-believers, and might have very different opinions on it, because because when it comes to experience and knowledge, which is what I'm talking so much about here, is we have a conflict between the mother and the unborn infant that has a life in front of them. So it's a difficult question to measure what is right and what is wrong in this case, while the Bible is much more unambiguous in that sense that it says that is wrong. It's simply wrong. And in that case, one thing that has to be understood is that I'm not saying that there aren't good things on the Bible. I'm not saying that some things in the Bible cannot. That's not at all what I'm saying about the Bible. What I'm saying is that the difference is that the Bible cannot be questioned. Some things about the Bible can be interpreted, but some things are not. And that is not so. The fact that something cannot be questioned and we learn to be immoral becomes a conflict with what we learned through experience. And yeah, in a case of abortion, there isn't one answer. There are several answers, and it's something that we have to discuss. Yeah.
So there really is no way to settle the abortion debate via secular morality. I'm trying to understand your position on my understanding of your opinion of what secular morality is. It's difficult for me to say secular morality is better than Christian morality when your interpretation of secular morality is what we have to examine, because the guy down the street is going to have another different set of rules that's going to be his secular morality, and the guy standing next to him is going to have a different secular morality. So how do we not fall into there being thousands of different secular moralities, and obviously different, like, these moralities are going to range over, their effectiveness, let's call it, is going to be very different.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we codify them into law. That's where law comes in.
So,
what we understand to be right and wrong?
Right. So you're saying that it doesn't become secular morality until it's codified into law.
It's not that it doesn't become secular morality, but it only becomes effective as a way of punishing what is understood to be wicked, what is understood to be wrong or to be bad, once it's codified. Now, society can already judge somebody for an act before it's turned into law, but there is no... there is going to be punishment. The person is going to suffer repercussions for doing something wrong, even if it's not codified into law. But it's something that is agreeable and that can be changed over time. While in terms of Bible, we can question a few things.
We might have had a little internet hiccup there. The question I have for you is, what do you agree with me that it's important to have a set of rules that people agree upon, correct? Like, that is what the morality is. It's a set of rules that people agree upon. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I've brought up several times the example of the 100 random Christians that we pull off the street and we ask them whether or not they think slavery is immoral. I'm going to put my money on 100 of them agree with that. When we pull 100 random secular moralityists off the street, and we ask them the same question that I posed to you about what is the secular morality opinion on forgiveness, my gut tells me we're going to get 100 different responses. So how do you put?
I don't think so.
What's that?
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to get 100 different responses.
You're not going to get
and in terms of forgiveness, because that is such an open question. The forgiveness depends on what. Like, slavery is something. It's something very specific. When you're talking about forgiveness, is something very broad.
Okay, so if I pull 100 random Christians off the street and I ask them their opinion on forgiveness, My gut tells me I will get a consistent response from the Christians, and I will not get a consistent response from the secularists. So
And that is not bad.
What's that?
That is not necessarily bad.
You're saying that's not bad, but you just said that it's important that people follow the same rules, that we orient people to a set of rules that they agree upon. That's the whole point of morality.
Yes, and we do. We all follow the same laws. And the difference is that we can change them.
But there are plenty of places where law tends to cover the extremes. There are places where law doesn't cover, that we still think are infractions. Cheating, yes. Lying. Lying is not illegal.
And in terms of forgiveness, why you get different answers is because forgiveness in certain circumstances might not be preferable. It might be seen as something bad. There might be certain
to the secularist, but to the Christian, I think you're going to get consistency.
Yeah, and that is not necessarily good.
Okay, why is it not good? Because part of my argument is that the
should we have forgiven Al-Qaeda when they decided to attack America in 2001? Should we have forgiven them?
Well, it's really not about me. It's about the 100 Christians. Like, well, the idea.
If forgiveness is always good, is always preferable, we should always forgive, then we should have forgiven.
There was a study of people who had lost loved ones in the 9/11 attack. Okay, so it's specifically related to what you're talking about. The Christians who forgave the people that killed their loved ones moved on with their lives in a way that the people who were unable to forgive didn't necessarily move on. So if you're talking,
you think America shouldn't have done anything.
What's that?
A Christian then would believe that America shouldn't retaliate.
Well, there's two different things going on here. There's the personal level and there's the societal level. Forgiveness is a personal level. Like I don't know that nations are able to forgive. Like forgiveness happens at an individual level. I mean, people say that all the time. People say, our country, like this is our country's value is this, but that's not necessarily the case. Different people have different values.
But we are just talking about morality being agreed upon people, or being agreed upon a community, a society.
True, yeah, but America's made up of Christians and Christians and secularists, all non-Christians, all different denominations of Christianity.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have very different moralities.
But my point is that Christianity orients 2 billion people towards the same morality, and secular morality orients I don't know how many secularists there are, 400,000. I think it's 400,000 in America. 400,000 people in very different ways, because you've already said that the secular morality, like they don't even have a consistent position on abortion. So they're not even, there's no consistency in orienting people.
Which is not a bad thing, because that means
But if I'm a person that just wants to be able to follow the rules, wants to know what the rules are so I can stay in line and live and let live, and just, how is...
Then you listen to both sides of the argument and you decide what you think is...
But that's not the easiest way to do it. That you can't just tell...
No, but why does it have to be the easiest way?
Well, some people
the easiest way is, of course, the easiest way is to have a dictator.
Let him answer one of your questions.
Some people want it easier. So are there questions, Bradley? Are there questions from the chat? Or?
Yes, there is one question from S.J. Thomason. Let me find it real quick. She said, question for Sarah. Where does she draw the line with abortion? Conception, heartbeat, viability, partial birth, late term? Does secular morality have an answer?
No, like that is a wrong way of phrasing it. Secular morality has an answer. It's whether we don't have an answer for that yet. Something, as I said, is being discussed. It's something that is going to eventually be codified into law once we have an agreement about abortion. My views on abortion, is something that I used to be very much pro-abortion, but recently I have been questioning my views on that. I still think abortion in case of someone who was raped should be sanctioned. Someone who was raped should be able to abort. In a case of a fetus that has a problem, doesn't have a brain or whatever, or it's a very dangerous pregnancy to the mother, in that case, the abortion should also be legal. But in other cases where you have a perfectly healthy fetus, I am not sure anymore. I have been questioning my views on that. So at the moment, I am measuring both sides on the argument. So of course, it's where I am right now, and this is what I mean about the being an advantage of secular morality, of myself being a humanist. I can question these things and I can decide for myself what I think is better. And then I can try to persuade other people to change their views if they agree with me. And in case of Christianity, it's not up for questioning. It's what it's in the text. It's what's in the Bible. And it's something is unambiguous in the Bible, that's what it is. Because that's God's word. That's what it's at.
I have one more question for you, and then I think we can go to our closing arguments. So secular morality, I'm not. It seems to me that there's not really one secular morality. There's many different secular moralities.
Sorry, you can go. Sorry.
My argument for why Christian morality is potentially better than secular morality is that Christian morality has close to 2 billion people voluntarily adhering to Christian morality. So they are doing a cost-benefit calculation in their own head whether or not this is helpful, useful to their lives, and voluntarily accepting it. Where secular morality has a much smaller adherence, even if you could really call it adherence, because I think a lot of the people who practice, secular morality don't really even think about morality and are not necessarily adhering to any specific code of conduct. So this is my argument on why I think Christian morality is potentially better, because it orients people more clearly than secular morality ever can, and I feel people find that useful in their lives.
Well, what I have to say about this, and despite myself being an anti-theist, I'm not radically anti-theist. I don't believe that eliminating religion will automatically make things better. I don't believe that. And I understand the usefulness of religion. And what I think about is that Christians today, some of their morality comes from the Bible. Some of it comes from knowledge and collective knowledge and experience that I always mention. So some of it, they still believe in God, and they believe that source of the Bible is God. And they take some of it that they believe to be good, and some of other things that they take that they believe to be good don't come from the Bible at all. So my point is, I'm okay with religion when it reaches that point. What I have a problem with religion is when it starts to enforce what it understands to be morality according to the Bible, according to interpretation of a text, and uses Bible as source of laws to enforce on other people. That is when I have a problem. But in a personal level, of course, Bible can be, Christianity can be useful. I don't have no objections to that.
So the Bible plus interpretation, how is that different than what you're saying, just experience? Like, wouldn't the Bible plus interpretation be the Bible plus personal experience to interpret that Bible?
Yeah, but that's when I say about some things in the Bible being unambiguous, some like slavery being that case where it's just there is no questioning that the Bible approves it. The Bible doesn't condemn it, and people, Christians, as you said very well, Christians today, they don't they condemn morality. They don't accept morality as slavery. They understand slavery to be immoral. Yet the Bible disagrees with them. So that is the point that I'm making. They might get some, and I was raised. I went to Catholic school as a kid. So
That's
some
funny.
of the things that, yeah, some of the things that I understand to be good, of course, I probably got from Christianity. I don't deny that. But the problem that I have with Christianity is that it's not up for questioning, and the idea that to even question God is a sin,
Well,
and that
that's
we are in forever in God's how you say God's debt for sending His Son to die for our sins, etc. That is the issue that I have with Christianity, because we assume that God is perfect and what God says is not up for questioning. To even question it is wrong. While humanist morality is that we can question things and we can improve.
so you've made the point about original sin. You made it in the intro, and you're kind of making it again here. You're saying that the Christian part of morality that involves original sin, you think is a bad part of Christian morality. My understanding of original sin and why I think that's actually a good part of Christian morality, and I'm curious like it's very difficult for me to see how I think this would be incorporated into a secular morality. But the idea of original sin kind of gets the human psychology right. And this has been studied in a number of different experiments, but people tend towards, I mean, we're apes. We tend towards selfishness, towards cheating, towards taking more than we deserve, that kind of thing. And if you look at the doctrine of original sin, it really like it gets the human psychology right, because it says that we are imperfect, that we need to strive for perfection. And I just think as kind of a heuristic, I think the science really backs up the idea of original sin. So I think that's one of the places where I think Christian morality would beat secular morality. And I don't know that there's a decent analog in secular morality for this concept that we are imperfect and we need to strive to perfect ourselves. The liberal side of the equation, like liberal morality or liberal ethics, often tell people that, you're just fine the way you are. You're perfect the way you are. You need to accept yourself the way you are. And I think that actually does get the psychology wrong. So I think that that's a place where that's one of the weaknesses. And I'll just point it out because you're bringing it up. You brought it up before. So I think that's one place that we can say secular morality is actually weaker than Christian morality, even though Christian morality is doing it kind of in just a metaphorical way than actually citing the human psychology.
Well, I think when people say you're perfect the way you are, they're not, I believe, talking about morality at all. But when I am not a moral
Relativist?
Relativist, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I am not a moral relativist. I think that there are certain things that we can all agree on that are, we might say, objectively bad for society.
Okay.
I think we can discuss that, and we can go to that. We can reach that conclusion through reason, and as I said, reason and experience. These are the two things that, if we allow stealing to be legal, to be sanctioned, and to be permissible, that is bad for everybody. If we allow murder to be permissible, it's the same thing. So these are things that we can conclude using our minds. It's not something that we need a God to tell us to do. And that is the issue about original sin. It's not that we are wicked by nature, but there are certain actions that we make that are bad, and we have to create ways in which those actions are punished. They are not acceptable. And the problem, as I've said, with the original sin is the idea that we inherit the sins of our foreparents, and we are forever in debt to God and that is an essential part of Christianity. We are in eternal debt to God, and that's why we should worship and not question God. While I say the advantage of humanism or any secular morality is that we can question things and we can improve them and we can make them better. That's what it is. Why I say that humanism or secular morality is better than Christianity.
Right. So, are there any more questions, Bradley?
There was one question that seemed pretty good from Man is Not His Own Master. Let me pull it up real quick. All right, so he said, question for Sarah. How can you be morally obligated to something as indifferent and impersonal as nature? So his question was in your moral philosophy.
I'm not a just naturalist. I don't believe in natural law. I think nature is anarchic.
Nature is what?
Anarchic.
Anarchic?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't think there is natural morality or natural law. It's morality is something that we create, as I've said, with collective knowledge and experience. It's something that we learn and we improve, etc. It's not something that we are born with. We might have some inclinations towards some things, but we are not born with a moral code in us. I think that is absurd, in my opinion.
So you think, just a clarification on the answer, so is it that there is no natural moral obligation, like you have no moral obligation to anything in the world objectively, but it's merely within human society?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Nature there is no obligation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
that was the last question I saw. Sorry.
Do you want to go first on a closing statement?
I actually didn't prepare any closing statements, and I think I put everything pretty much that I think I had to say, and yeah, what I think is simply that the advantage of a secular humanist morality is that we can improve it. While Bible assumes that God is perfect, the text is perfect, and we might argue certain interpretations of some things, but it's made on the assumption that God is morally perfect, Jesus is morally perfect, and they cannot be questioned. So that is why I believe that humanism is better than Christianity as a codification of morality.
Well, my counter argument is that I really don't think. I think that you're sacrificing a lot on this altar of we can improve it, because I don't necessarily know what you're improving. I don't know that there is a secular morality here. It seems like there are secular moralities, that there are a lot of different moralities, and that people can adopt their own list of rights and wrongs at their personal discretion. And when you enact a system where human beings can accept or reject whatever is right and wrong at their own personal discretion, then you really don't have a system of rules that people can orient themselves to. So I'm going to just go back to the example that I give of the Christians, that if you pull 100 Christians off the street and you ask them certain questions about behavior, you're going to get consistent answers. You're going to be able to study that in a lab. You're going to be able to say, this is what Christian morality is. And we have some difference of opinion over the interpretation of the Bible. But I honestly think if a secularist is going to point to certain passages and say that you as a Christian must accept slavery as moral because it's part of your biblical text, I think then they're guilty of doing the same kind of cherry picking they're often accusing the Christians of doing, because that's the cherry picking works both ways. The cherry picking can be helpful in producing a morality that's better, that's more modern, or it can be harmful if you want to pin passages that are more more antagonistic towards modern life. Let's just put it that way. So do you I see you shaking your head. I don't want to end this without you, like, if you want to rebut, but that's basically my argument. We'll let people in the comments decide
Yeah, sure.
which they think is more clear. But go ahead. What do you want to say?
Well, as I've said several times, is that some things are up for questioning, but the matter of slavery is so important because it is not. It is unambiguous. And if Christians today don't accept slavery as being moral, it's not because of the Bible, it's because of humanism, not the Bible. The
Right.
Bible doesn't say that it's right.
Okay. So this has been a lot of fun. I thank you for contributing. So I've left links to everybody's channel in the description, so I encourage you to check out their channels. You make videos as well, correct?
Yes.
Are they
Yes,
all atheist slant videos or
No, I talk about
different
several
topics?
things.
I think actually you discussed the trans athletes issue. You had a popular video responding to rationality rules, correct?
Not exactly responding to rationality rules, but I responded to the atheist community of Austin when they denounced him.
Yeah. You got.
The joke is that they issue a fatwa against rationality rules.
So, but you were, whose side were you on in that?
Well, I think people were overreacting. His video had several problems, but I don't think he was being I mean, you might say some things in his video was being disrespectful, but not intentionally. I don't think he was being mean or anything like that. I think he was just coming from ignorance, and people were just overreacting to it and not giving him a chance to correct himself when he had actually already apologized.
Well, I think we agree there.
The ICA, and that's why I made that video. And eventually I got shunned by other transgender people. So
well, I encourage everyone to check it out. I watched the video and I thought it was very well put together, so I encourage everyone to check it out. Do you have any CM Bradley, you got any new videos in the works you want to promote before we sign off?
I have another video that I am going to be actually making a critique of Jordan Peterson. It might be out in the next few weeks, for all I know. I've been working on it for like 2 months, procrastinating on writing the script like everything else in my life, but that's neither here nor there. So, but there was one last question in the chat. SJ Tom, there's like a huge debate happening on Sarah. What is your accent and where are you from?
I am Brazilian and I live in Australia. Yes, and I live in Australia, so I have a very weird accent. Yeah.
All right. That explains some of the ambiguity in the chat. All right, cool.
Well, I'm glad we settled that. All right, I'll go ahead and leave it there. Thank you so much for participating. Like I said, next week I'm going to be debating Kent Hovind.
Good luck.
Yeah, I think I might have the time incorrect here, so you can follow me on Twitter to check the time. I think it's 3:30 East. No, I think I have the time right. I think it's 3:30 Eastern, so it's a bit earlier than we're at 6 p.m. Eastern starting today. So thanks for joining in, and we'll see you in the next video.